yesterday I saw an article that Harvard is going to start trade schools, right? And it's funny because I've been talking about this for years now, how as the number of students going to colleges for degrees and, whatever, psychology, history, whatever, business, whatever it is people go to school for, that the colleges would then jump on the trade school bandwagon, right? And one of the things I want to talk about today is that the colleges today are part of the reason why our job market is the way that it is. It's part of why our society is the way that it is, and all the problems that we're having right now comes from these colleges, right? So one of the great things about being a tradesperson, or being, in my case, a furniture maker, is that we are kind of the antithesis of everything that colleges stand for, and so it's very important that we have this separation in accreditations and ways that people get skills, right? Colleges think that the way to get skills is that you basically put off work and go to college and learn to, work, I guess, learn skills, learn things for credit hours to get a degree. Whereas in the trades or in the blue collar profession, we tend to like to do on the job training, right? We like to go start off as very young people and learn skills in a trade very young. And this is really important. A lot of people talk about like unions, and there are trade schools. Trade schools have been a thing forever, but they're putting a lot more emphasis on it today because these colleges are going to want to get federal dollars, right? This is the entire game, and this is where colleges have failed, and this is where the problems have occurred within the academic community, right? It's this lack of awareness of what it is that they're doing to society. It's the lack of awareness of what they're doing to young people's minds that has created the issues that we're seeing today, So point is that if we're going to have a lot more people learning trades, right, learning to be welders, plumbers, furniture makers, cabinet makers, all these kind of things, it's really important that we don't lose what makes the trades, right? So what am I talking about, right? So I'm talking about things like DEI. I'm talking about things like climate change. I'm talking about things like profanity. I'm talking about things, diversity, all these kind of things. And we'll talk about this here as this conversation goes on. But Harvard is guilty of all these things, okay? One of the great things about being a tradesperson, or a person that works outside, around a lot of noise, dangerous environments, all that kind of things, is that you develop a camaraderie. And that camaraderie comes from being in dangerous places together. That camaraderie comes from being in the suck together, much like the military. And colleges will bleed all of that out of blue-collar workers, right? Colleges will try and bring in things like DEI, things like implicit bias training, like all these things that really cause problems within our society today, which colleges have caused all of this stuff, right? The trades, we can't let that stuff in there, right? So let's talk about Harvard and trades and all this kind of stuff. So my name is Eric Wilkin. I'm with Athletic Crow here in St. Louis, Missouri. We're a small furniture boutique company. We do about 500 pieces a year. We're a small 7-figure business. We got about 10 employees. And we've had this business for going on 10 years now at this point. I'm a lifelong furniture maker and cabinet maker. I've been doing it for 25 years at this point, long time. I'm 46 years old, grew up, parents had a cabinet shop, built furniture when I was very young, and 9/11 took that business out, and then I had to go move around the country chasing jobs, and I got into aerospace and started chasing aerospace jobs all over America. I had a bunch of failed businesses and finally got it figured out. I met a woman who knew how to sell shit and had a really good idea with painting and turned this thing into a great business and great life. And that's where I'm coming from when I have this conversation. So I'm not just some guy talking out of my ass. I've been doing this my entire life. And so let's get into this conversation. If you're in the conversation today, guys, hit the like button, add the discussion. Let me know where I'm right. Let me know where I'm wrong. We have a lot of kids in really high levels of academia. I've also got a lot of people in the unions back on the West Coast. Got a really broad group of family members that just kind of run the gamut when it comes to education, blue collar, yada, yada, yada. So what we need to talk about is Donald Trump basically said that Harvard is going to spend $500 million to create trade schools, right? To start trade school curriculums and things like that, right? And that in and of itself isn't the worst thing in the world, but the problem is the message that it sends to all of academia, right? So right now, academia is bleeding students, right? I think they've had the largest lack of enrollment they've ever seen, like meaning they had like 10 million people this year. or last year, this year, they've got like 7 million, right? So they're seeing massive reductions in people because people don't see the value in going to college anymore. And that's because you can't make enough money to justify what it costs to go there, right? And this is one of the big things about trade school or on-the-job training versus going to college, right? So college basically convinced everyone that getting that degree was going to give you a higher pay, right? You were going to leave college, enter the workforce, and make a bunch of money. And for the select few, that worked. For the majority of people, that did not work, right? And this isn't like some, great conspiracy. That's how it works in life, right? A lot of people just are mediocre, right? A lot of people don't really want to work that hard. They just want to go to work, put in their 8 hours, and come home. And that's really, and there's nothing wrong with that. It takes all kinds of people to make the world go round. But these universities put in people's heads that if you went there and spent, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 a year, that when you came out of college, you would be making substantially more, right? And all the experts always told us that if we went to college, that college graduates make more than high school graduates, right? They've been telling us this for years. And in the aggregate, it's probably true, to be quite honest with you, but it's had a massive decline, like a very steep, quick decline, because degrees aren't worth the paper that they're printed on anymore. And that's because too many people have degrees now, right? You have to be able to do something, right? It's more important than ever that as an employee, you're able to actually provide value when you come onto the job, right? And so if you have a degree, you have no experience. You have that degree, but you haven't done shit, okay? Now, had you started at a company very young, say 18 years old, instead of going to college, you started off at, say, an HVAC company, and you spent 4 years at that HVAC company, you would basically probably be making $50,000, $60,000 a year by the time you're done, right? So over that time period, that 4-year period, you probably would have made anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000. Whereas when you go to college, you're going to be in debt anywhere from $30,000 to $100,000, right? So you come out of the gate in debt immediately. Whereas if you go to work for an HVAC company or a furniture company, right off the bat, you learn skills, you endear yourself to that employer. You come out of high school, endearing yourself to a company, learning skills that are valuable to the company. You start producing for that company, making product for that company. You become valuable immediately, right? And over 4 years, you become more valuable than you've ever been, right? And this idea that people are going to overvalue the person with the degree over the 18-year-old that started out of high school, those days are over. And that's one of the things that people, I think, need to understand. This idea that you're going to get some kind of special training in college that's going to get you a special job when you get out in the real world, it's not. And unfortunately, we've seen so many people get educated that we're realizing that these people that are educated, they're really not that smart. And again, that's no shade on them. Like, it's just, that's life. Like, most people just aren't that intelligent. And it used to be that when you went to college was for smart people, right? You're going to be an engineer, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be these things, these professions that we kind of put up on a pedestal. Well, what they did is they said, well, you know what? If you're a psychologist, you're going to go up on that pedestal, right? If you're a history major, you're going to go up on that pedestal. If you're going to go study, Latin culture, you're going to go study gender, queer theory, all these kind of things. You're put on the same pedestal as the doctor and the lawyer and all these kind of things. And the truth is that you're not. And the education that you're paying for the same freaking education, to be quite honest with you. And so when you get out of school, you're insanely in debt. You have no real skills, and the college has just sucked up your money, right? And the truth is, if we're all being completely honest, is that most people just didn't want to go to work. That's really what it boiled down. It's like, I can go to school for 4 years and have fun, right? Wave pool. Or I can go get in the dirt when I'm 18 years old and start making money, right? People don't want to do that. and I don't blame them one bit, but point is that they're all screwed now, so that's kind of what the colleges did. They basically said you were a loser if you went to the trades, you were a loser if you worked with your hands, only losers go do, plumber jobs, frame carpenter jobs. These are not jobs for successful people, right? And we're seeing that was all kind of horseshit. Truth is, I've been a cabinet maker, furniture maker my entire life. I've always made great money. I've always owned my own home. I bought my first home when I was 22 years old. I've always owned my own, cars and paid for kids and all that. They sold a massive lie, right? So fast forward to today, okay? So why are we here? Why are we talking about this stuff? Looks like we got, who's this, Lewis in here? Lewis Reyes, good to see you, man. Hello, good morning. If you guys are in the stream, hit the like button, add the discussion. We're going to talk about Harvard starting trade schools and what a giant catastrophe this could be. Funny Bear's in here. Funny Bear, good to see you too. Contribute to the conversation, guys. Hit the like button, add the discussion. So The thing about the trades versus colleges, right? So if we want to look at, like, we'll use Harvard since that's the, the pinnacle of colleges and what the stream is about. Okay, if we look at Harvard, right? Harvard wants to get into trade school business, right? Because that's where the government money is going to be. Like, how long do you think it's going to be before the government is handing out trade school money like they were handing out college degree money, right? Like, it's going to happen here very quickly. So the thing about Harvard, if you look at the way this college operates, it's not actually a teaching institution, right? Which is really messed up. It's basically a giant hedge fund, right? The colleges sit on these massive endowments, and they just literally invest this money in basically the stock market and other kinds of investments to grow this endowment, right? They're not paying for educating kids. They're not even educating kids. When people go to Harvard, they're basically networking, right? Which, again, that's how it works with everybody, whether you got a trade school job or you have a college job, white collar job. It's all about networking, right? If you lose your job, your odds of getting a new job are much better if you have a network of people that you can talk to, as opposed to just throwing your resume out on Indeed. Networking has always been a great thing, and Harvard's the best of it because the most powerful and elite people in our country's history have all basically went to Harvard at one point or another. Whether they stayed or whether they didn't doesn't matter. But what these colleges do is they create a world of pussies, right? They create a group of people who are afraid of everything, which is why they start doing things like diversity training, right? They start doing things like, what's another great example? They start doing things like talking about climate change, right? They tell you, they beat into your head super early that climate change is the most important thing, right? So meanwhile, when you get out of the real world, the companies that are ran by a lot of these Harvard college graduates, they preach this same thing: HR, DEI, not cancel culture, sorry, I'm drawing a blank here. Environmental stuff, climate change, all these kind of things. They push all this stuff, right? But what they do is, while they're pushing that stuff here in America, right, they're pushing for safety. Safety is a big one too. They're always pushing for this kind of stuff here in America. And so they start stacking these regulations because this is what the experts say we need, right? We need more OSHA regulations. We need more EPA regulations. We need more whatever, transportation regulations. We need more labor regulations, and they just stack and stack and stack and stack and stack all these regulations. And meanwhile, the blue collar guy who would make the buildings, would make the pipelines, would do all this kind of work, pour the concrete, he can't do that because every time they want to lay a foundation, well, you got to do an environmental impact study, right? You got to get all the soil sampling done. You got to go through, all the permitting process at every step of the foundation process. And these things delay projects and delay projects and delay projects. And it just creates a society that grinds to a halt, right? And that's why when these people get these degrees from Harvard, right, these white collar degrees, MBAs, things like that, they then outsource all the work to other countries, right? They don't do that work here in America. I mean, some of them do, don't get me wrong, but it's not labor intensive, capital intensive work. It's going to be white collar work. They outsource all the hard work to the third world because there's no OSHA, there's no EPA, there's no tort, there's no any of these things that they say they want. They don't care about climate change, right? They can dump their chemicals anywhere they want, but they can act virtuous here in America, right? So these people all come from Harvard. This mindset comes from college and academia, and it brainwashes people and creates a lot of rot. Okay, these are the people that cry about, racist jokes, that cry about dirty words, that see sexual harassment everywhere they go, that see racism everywhere they go. Okay, now Harvard is the place that created all this stuff, right? You guys saw the anti-Semitism bullshit that was going on at Harvard, right? These colleges are terrible. Like, they're terrible for people. Okay, they have the worst free speech ratings anywhere. Harvard, I think, was #1 a couple of years in a row for the lack of free speech. Like, they don't want to hear about right-wing opinions. All they want to hear about is leftism, right? They want to hear about progressivism and all these kind of things, right? Trade school and blue-collar work is the antithesis of all this, right? So this idea that Harvard and academia is going to get into trade schools, in my mind, is super scary. It's one of these things that I think we need to shout from the rooftops and keep these people the hell out of blue-collar work, right? Because the great thing about blue-collar work is you can talk like a man. You can act the way you want to act. You can be who you want to be. You can, be a little bit unsafe. Your schedules are flexible. You can, eat what you want. You can be who you want to be, all these kind of things. Colleges will not let you do that, right? Colleges are the people that instituted things like HR, right? Right now, when you go, if you work in corporate America, you got to go through stupid things like DEI training, you got to go through diversity training, you got to go through implicit bias training, sexual harassment training, you got to go through all these different safety trainings, all this kind of stuff. This is all from academia, right? Anybody that owns a business that does real hands-on dirty work doesn't give a fuck about any of that stuff. None of it, because it doesn't help the bottom line, right? At the end of the day, all we want to do is make money. Yeah, we want our people to be safe, we want to have a great work environment, but the people that do the work for the most part can take care of themselves. But not if you're a college graduate, right? If you're a college graduate, you think you know better about everything. And so you create processes for everything. You create standards for everything. You create an environment where everyone is basically a robot. And this sucks. This is horrible, right? And again, blue collar work is the antithesis of everything that academia stands for, right? I could wear flip-flops at work, right? It's my fucking company. I can do whatever I want, right? I can wear flip-flops to work if I want. I can have a beer at lunch if I want. I can really enjoy myself as a worker. If my guys want to wear flip-flops to work, I really don't care. Not a big deal. I pay the insurance. I'll deal with it. But I want my people to be comfortable. But when you work for a large corporation who has a bunch of MBAs and college graduates running everything, there's, safety shoes and everything. You got hearing protection, eye protection, face protection, bubble wrap. Got to make sure you got the right jeans on. You got the harnesses. It's kind of a joke, guys. And trade school and blue collar work is the antithesis of all of this. Okay, we cannot let a college like Harvard or Columbia or Stanford or New York University, any of these places, you cannot let these people get into the trades, because they will try and do to the trades what they did to every other white collar profession in America, which is destroy it. Okay, and we all know that right now that white collar work is just hemorrhaging jobs, right? AI is coming through, washing out most of this work. A lot of this work is being replaced by H-1B visas because white-collar Americans are too expensive, right? Blue-collar Americans are becoming too expensive. But the reason blue-collar workers are protect is not the word I'm going for. The reason that they are paid what they are paid is because they actually produce a real product, right? They actually make buildings. They, weld pipe, install cabinets, install floors. Like, they do all these things, create roads. So people are willing to pay these people a little bit extra money because you actually see what they do. What we're realizing today is that the experts, right, which all come from academia, they all infiltrate our government. These experts are not experts. They are basically in a giant circle jerk with each other, right? The expert that approves all the research grants used to be a researcher, right? So of course they're going to approve all the money, which is taxpayer money, to go research gay frogs, right? It's going to, go study whatever hamsters running on treadmills, all these kind of ridiculous things. These researchers study this stuff over and over and over again, and it's just a giant siphon of money from the taxpayer going into these institutions, which are producing people who hate this country, right? Who think that climate change is the most important thing ever, right? Meanwhile, they buy all their shit in China, right? They don't care that China destroys their rivers. They don't care that the people of China are basically working as slave labor. As long as they can say that they care about the environment, they don't care, right? These people are disgusting. And what happens is the colleges are going to try and infiltrate the blue collar work that we do, the working with our hands work, and they're going to try to bring that shit into our profession. They're going to do anything they can. And they're doing it not because they care about the blue collar worker or the guy that just wants to work right out of high school, the guy that doesn't like to work, the guy that doesn't want to be around a bunch of, weirdo, degenerate people. Maybe they don't even want to be around, 10,000 different races. Like, colleges are crazy, right? These places are basically bastions of degeneracy, right? Everything's acceptable. Nobody says no. Nobody says that that's wrong. You're weird. You're a fucking weirdo. Nobody says that stuff. But you go out to the job site, right? You go into the factory, everybody says that stuff, right? You want to go to the factory and dress like a woman as a man? Good luck. Everyone's going to make fun of you, and they're going to shame you until you quit, right? That doesn't happen in college, right? They'll actually kick you out of college for telling someone that they're a freaking weirdo. And so we have to keep these institutions separate. I hope this kind of makes sense to people. Hey, son, good to see you, dude. It's very important that we keep academia separate from blue-collar work, because these two groups of people do not jive. They do not jive at all. And the only reason that someone like myself would vote for a person like Donald Trump is because the guy was in the construction industry for so long, the hotel industry, and people say, oh, he's just rips people off and he bankrupted himself. And they always focus on the negative. They don't focus on the fact that the guy actually built buildings. There's actually tons of hotels with his name on them, right? That he oversaw certain versions of. There's tons of shit out there with his name on it, which is called licensing. Not the easiest thing in the world to do. You actually have to have a real brand in order to do that. Like, you can't just throw your name out there and people just put it on whatever products you want. The guy actually did something, you know? So blue collar workers respect that, okay? White collar workers don't respect shit. They could care less about any of that stuff, right? All they do is focus on the virtuous stuff, you know, and how they look on the outside to other people instead of focusing on the inside, right? Focusing on what really matters. Focusing on actually doing something every day. You know, we see the videos of people today. You'll see, just get on Google or X, and you'll see these college graduates going into work, and they'll video their entire day while they're getting coffee and they're, you know, setting up their laptop at like 9 o'clock in the afternoon, and they'll basically do like 40 minutes of real work in an 8-hour day and then basically fucking off. Like, you can't operate that way. White collar people will never be respected by blue collar people if you operate like that. And this is one of the reasons that you keep white collar people away from blue collar people, okay? I know it sounds like segregation in a way, but if you let academia get into this, they're gonna fuck it all up. They're gonna turn blue collar workers into a bunch of blue haired pussies, and that's not what the trades are. And the trades are a self-selecting group of people, right? If you can't do the job, we're gonna train you up, we're gonna tune you up until you can do the job. And if you can't do the job, we're gonna shame you so bad that you're gonna have to go, right? You may even have a fucking accent. You're gonna get out of there. Like, you're not going to be on the job site. You're not going to be working with people that do the job, especially if you don't want to do the job, or if you're some fuck up, or if you're some person that is always making trouble. You will not end up working there. You know, blue collar people are, like I said, very self-selecting group of people. And the way that we bond is by telling dirty jokes, by telling racist jokes, by making fun of each other, by, you know, super gluing your feet to the floor, you know, by, you know, whatever, gluing shit onto your car, whatever, by fucking with your lunch. Like, we do all kinds of crazy shit as a form of camaraderie, right? White collar people will never understand this kind of stuff. They're just not in the same world, right? Their big concern is getting an apartment, getting their little dog, you know, and then, you know, saving the planet, right? They don't understand what blue collar work is really like. They don't understand what it means to become a blue collar worker, okay? Now, the other thing that has really messed up America is what academia has done to the cost of living for people, right? So one of the reasons that everything is so damn expensive and that employers have to pay the kind of wages that they have to pay, which everyone will say is not enough money, is because these colleges have raked people over the coals on tuition. This idea that you're going to go to college, you know, pay $20,000, $30,000 a year, get out of college, maybe you got $50,000 to $100,000 in debt. You can't make $16 an hour coming out of college. You have to make close to $30 an hour to be able to pay off that student loan and afford an apartment and a car and start your life, right? So the immediate cost to employ you right off the bat is double what it should cost a normal person. And the truth is you're not any more valuable. You know, and again, a lot of people don't want to hear that, but it's just the honest to God truth. Just because you got a degree, it doesn't mean shit. You know, it doesn't mean anything. You know how to make nothing. You know how to do anything. You know, you basically can show up on time and you can finish projects. That basically is all we know about you. And those things are important, but I don't know if they're twice as valuable as the kid coming straight out of college, or excuse me, the kid coming straight out of high school. You know, so these people have raised the cost for every employer in America, which that causes the employers to raise their prices, right? Because we're not going to stay in business to lose money, right? So we'll raise our prices if we have to, and that's how it goes. So the cost of living for everybody has gone through the roof. Now, if you let Harvard and all these academic institutions get in the trade school game, what do you think is going to happen to the cost of learning how to be a plumber? Like, how long do you think it'll be before on-the-job training isn't allowed, right? The only way you can be a plumber is if you have a certification that was approved by Harvard, right? How long do you think that's going to be? And then wait till furniture making, right? If you want to be a furniture maker, you're going to have gone to the Harvard School of Furniture Making, the Harvard School of Joinery, and have one of their, you know, bachelor's degrees in joinery, whatever. Like, it's gonna happen if these people are allowed to do what it is they want to do, okay? We see this every day in every industry. These educated white collar people they add layers of bureaucracy, they add certifications, they add new standards to materials, processes, services, everything they possibly can, which drives the price up on everything for everybody, right? So these people have caused society to get so damn expensive that most people can't afford to live in it today, right? One of the great things about being a blue collar worker is that you could come to work right out of high school, probably make 15 bucks an hour, like straight out of high school. You can live at home. It's not like you got to make a bunch of money. Spend 6 months to a year learning a job, probably get up to, 18 bucks an hour. Maybe by year 2, you're making $21, $24 an hour, depending on what you do, how good you are. Maybe $30 an hour, who knows? But point is that you don't have all that debt. You actually learn to do something that is valuable to a company that needs you, right? Most companies don't need these college graduates today, right? These colleges pumped out so many people with degrees, they didn't realize that the fucking education they were giving people was worth dick. It's really sad, and now the people that got all these degrees, they're saying, hey, I got the degree, I did the thing. Why can't I get a paycheck? Why am I a barista at Starbucks? Why am I a line cook, at the restaurant down the street? These people can't get work, right? They can't, they were lied to. And now academia wants to come in and try and do that to my industry, right? The blue collar worker, the person that I've been my entire life, the guy that never graduated high school, somehow figured out how to always make enough money. These institutions of higher learning have defrauded America in a horrible way. And then they're important to society for many ways. I'm not going to say that they're not. They do make smart people smarter, and they have great things to teach people when it comes to things like physics and engineering and, learning to be a lawyer, doctor, all these kind of things. But everything else, it's basically a joke. It's an overpriced joke that is only possible because the American taxpayer guarantees it. Had the American taxpayer not guaranteed this education, a lot of these people would not have went to school. They would be in the workforce today, right? They would be learning skills and doing things that society actually needs, right? That's one of the things that blue-collar people and white-collar people don't understand. White-collar people think that you can just go chase your dreams, go be whatever it is you want to be right off the bat, and as soon as you get out of college, you're going to go make a bunch of money, right? Blue-collar people understand that, well, I need to go make money, so I'm going to go do the work that is around me, and they learn to like the work that is around them. Because the truth is that people are pretty malleable. People aren't as committed to doing one thing when they're young as we tend to think they are. Most people have no idea what they want to do when they're young. All they know is that they don't really want to work, which is every young person for the most part. Again, give them the opportunity to go to college for 4 years and not work, or go and work right out of high school. Most people are going to choose that college. And so, yeah, I'm really scared about this whole academia thing. Like I've watched people go through college most of my life, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. I've hired people with college degrees. I've hired people with bachelor's degrees that wanted to learn how to make furniture and sand furniture and deliver furniture because they couldn't use their degree. They didn't like their degree. They found out they didn't like being on a computer all the time. And again, these are young people. So it's really rough when they learn these things and then realize they don't like them and they have a mountain of debt behind it. Like I hired one kid several years back. He was praying that Bernie Sanders would get elected president so that they would pay off his education, right? What he didn't understand is that when he was telling me this, he was basically saying to me like, hey, motherfucker, I want you to pay off my education because I got a shitty education, right? The thing that I wanted to go to school for, nobody wants to pay me for, right? It's really messed up, and especially as a guy who never graduated high school. Like it's really, really pissed me off, to be quite honest with you. But that's how a lot of people think today. And again, this is the difference between blue-collar people and white-collar people. Blue-collar people have no illusions about who pays the bills, right? Blue-collar people have no illusions about you have to make something to make money, right? White-collar people think that they can just leverage everything and make tons of money like Elon Musk or like Larry Ellison or any of these other people. And the truth is that most of them can't. They don't have the skills. Most people, they can't sell anything. They don't like to talk to people. They're fairly introverted. They're actually not that ambitious. And again, nobody will tell them this, right? Blue collar people have no illusions about it. I got to go frame a house today. I got to go pour a foundation today. I got to go lay a mile of road today. I got to go stripe this road. And if I don't do that, I don't get paid. White collar people think they're going to get paid no matter what, right? Most of them are salary. If they don't go into work, not a big deal. And if they got a government job, they'll probably get paid no matter what. White collar people put rules and regulations in place so that they can't be fired, right? Or it's very difficult to fire them. Blue collar people understand that, hey, if I don't go to work, I don't get fucking paid. This is a better way to run society. You can't have people that are entitled. You can't have people that live in a virtuous bubble and expect everyone else to pay for it, or expect that their actions aren't going to affect other people. They lack the idea of understanding what a third and fourth order consequence is. They only see the thing right in front of them, and this has really hurt our country in a major way. And I don't know if we can escape it at this point. There are so many people today that have been brainwashed for about 15 years that it's very difficult to save these people. It's very difficult to convince them that their virtuous mindsets and their college education isn't the answer. It's very difficult. And I don't know what to do with these people. I don't know how to course correct them, how to get them the education that they need, the retraining that they need, because most of them, they don't want to learn, right? So we have that, right? We also have the other group of people, right? So, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to talk about the lower class people. But anyway, that's what I want to talk about today. This stuff makes me very nervous. Whenever I see academia get involved in anything, it's just a matter of time before it gets completely fucked. And it's I can't think of many examples where a college education has helped somebody. Funny story. I'll tell you guys a quick story. So my mother is a phenomenal salesperson. It's one of these people that believes that you eat what you kill. And she, again, like me, had to move around a little bit, figure out things, but she became very successful at selling. Well, she became so successful that the company that she was working for put her basically as a director. And they wanted her to run all of sales and marketing, and she was basically going to bring all the business into the company, right? Like, someone has to sell something for the company to make any fucking money, right? If you're an accountant, right, you got no work if there's nobody selling accounting services, right? Accountants suck at selling things, right? If you're a furniture maker, right, unless someone sells a cabinet to a customer, you got nothing to make, right? So salespeople are just about the most important people in any business. But anyway, she became very successful, very good at this, started managing everyone, became a director. Well, they realized she had no college degree. I think she had an associate's degree at the time. She might have had part of an associate's degree. And they quietly asked her to basically get a bachelor's degree because it was going to look bad to all the people that worked under her, because they would all have degrees. And I remember hearing this and thinking, like, this was like completely disgusting. Like, I was disgusted by this notion, because this is the difference between a white collar person and a blue collar person, right? It's all about what's on the outside for a white collar person. It really is. A blue collar person doesn't give a fuck about your education. I could care less about where you went to school, your accreditations, the letters in front of your name or after your name. I don't care about any of that stuff. What can you do? What have you done? These are the things that are important. The only things that matter is what can you do and what have you done? And if what you've done is nothing, well, good. Let's teach you some things. Here, what do you want to learn? Pay you some money. Let's get to work, right? What have you done? Show me what you've done. Okay, great. You've built all this amazing stuff. Good. Make me this simple thing right now. If you can make it, we're good. It's very different in the white collar world. Yeah, very different, So we got to be very careful with these colleges. We got to be very careful with academia, because what they want is the appearance that they're better than everybody else. They want the appearance that they're virtuous, more virtuous than everybody else. They want the appearance that they know what to do, right? They want the appearance that they're the experts. They want the appearance that they are the people that you should listen to and follow. And the truth is that most of them are frauds. And I've seen it time and time and time again. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna talk about today. I saw that article, and it just, like I said, it really bugged me, because I've been talking about this for years, right? I've always said, like, it's just a matter of time before you have to go get a bachelor's degree as a general labor, right? A bachelor's degree of general labor, or you're going to go get a bachelor's in frame carpentry, or you get a master's in frame carpentry, right? Instead of being a master carpenter or a master furniture maker or master welder, you can't do it unless you get that degree. And that's how it works in academia. That's how it works in white collar spaces. If you want to get smarter, you want to make more money, you got to go get educated. You got to have that accreditation. And I just laugh. I think it's disgusting. And I think society's waking up. I think that we're realizing that a lot of these experts and academics, they're only experts and academics to themselves. And again, these people, they get into the halls of power and they just start hiring all their buddies. They start hiring all the people that they went to school with, right? And then the people that they went to school start hiring the people that they went to school with. And the things that they required at their college, they start requiring for all their employees. And then employees that they hire, well, they require that for their employees. And it's just this cycle of suck. To where everyone hates their job. No one can make any money, and it creates a world or a society of nihilists, which is what we have right now. People that don't know what to do, they hate their jobs, everything's expensive, they're constantly worried. What is that, cortisol is always elevated. They can never stop worrying about shit because they can't make enough money to do anything. The work that they do is very unfulfilling because they don't really do anything. They just fucking pass emails and emails. They run, ones and zeros through the internet. They don't physically make a thing. They don't sell anything. They just go to work, bitch about it, and then come home and worry about paying rent. It's a rough world. So we need to keep white collar people out of blue collar work, and we got to keep this thing separated. I know that sounds bad, but these people will come in and they will ruin the great thing that we have in the trades and the great thing we have as white collar workers, the camaraderie we have in the community of white collar people, So don't let a wealthy person come between you, or excuse me, not a wealthy person. Don't let a academic come between you and your trade, okay? Because that's what they'll do. Eventually, you'll want to go get a job as a mason, and they'll be like, well, where did you get your master's degree from in masonry? So got to be very careful about this kind of stuff because this is what it leads to, and then they'll charge you a fortune for it, right? Because no master's degree is free, right? They're going to want $80,000 for you to go get a degree as a mason that pays $60,000 a year, $80,000 a year if you're lucky. So yeah, that's what happened to all the white collar workers, and they're trying to push that on blue collar workers now because the blue collar workers are where the work's at because they realize that white collar people don't actually do shit. So anyway, I'll have this discussion. I know this is again not a topic that is my normal topic, but I felt it's really important to talk about. Get on X, get on Google, and research this kind of stuff and see exactly what's coming down the pipeline. Get into trades early. Get into a small business right out of high school. Start learning how to do something that you get to see every day. Start learning how to make things. Start learning how to fix things, and you're gonna have work forever, right? I shouldn't say can't. AI will take a lot longer to replace a blue-collar worker than a white-collar worker, right? And that's really what it boils down to, guys. And we know this from COVID, right? We know that the only reason COVID happened is because all the academics and the the white-collar people were able to stay at home and collect salaries for basically doing nothing, while all the blue-collar people had to go do the work. Again, they didn't close down any fucking grocery stores, right? They saw the people stocking groceries, but the teacher didn't have to go to work, right? The C-suite executive didn't have to go to the office, but the trash guy still had to come collect the trash, right? The maintenance guy still had to come fix your house, fix your apartment. The real work still had to be done, which showed us exactly how our society works and what's really important. And if you want to know where the money should be, just look at COVID. It was very obvious what was going on and how, most of the jobs out there are bullshit, guys. And blue-collar jobs are not because you produce something every day. You scale things up every single day. You get to see your work as it's finished, and it's a meaningful way to make money. It's a meaningful way to go through life. So anyway, on this discussion, guys, you have a great day. I'm working on my Audi today. My suspension system came in, so I'm going to replace the suspension for the third time because I tried to replace it twice with electronic shocks, which is what it came with. Couldn't get the car to talk to the suspension. I took it to Audi. Audi said that the shocks were no good. And so I went ahead and I just bought a passive suspension system from KW. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to replace all those shocks. And again, this is my third time doing it, so it should go pretty quick. So anyway, hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll talk again about something later.